Hello, everyone. So we are going to get into Act 3 of Romeo and Juliet, Scene 5. Before we do that, I want to reiterate some of the previous scenes and some of the things that had happened. So we know that in Scene 1, things got very tense quickly, right? Tybalt and Mercutio got in a fight. Romeo tried to separate it. Mercutio was killed. Romeo wants revenge, and so Tybalt comes back, and Romeo ends up killing Tybalt, and things are just absolutely a mess. However, the prince's sentence is much lesser than what he had initially stated, and that is that he will be exiled. In scene 2, okay, we see Juliet at the start waiting for Romeo to come so that they can consummate the marriage and she can lose her virginity. Okay, now remember, Romeo and Juliet did in fact get married. So I have a couple of you that have written so that they can eventually get married, right? But in Act 2, Scene 6, Romeo and Juliet did get married. Okay, so Romeo is going to come to Juliet and the two of them are going to have sex. Okay, and she's very excited about that. However, her emotions take the turn for the worst when the nurse comes barging in, screaming, "He's dead, he's dead, he's dead." Juliet imagines at first that this is her new husband, Romeo, who is dead. And she starts weeping and wailing and threatening to kill herself, and then learns quickly that it is actually Tybalt who has died. Um, and so at the end of the scene, the nurse is witnessing Juliet unravel. And so she assures Juliet some comfort in that she is going to go to Friar Lawrence's cell where she knows Romeo is. And she is going to have Romeo still come and see Juliet. Okay. And so she's trying to help Juliet out a little bit here. Okay. Now in scene 3, we go over to Friar Lawrence's cell. Like Juliet, who is having a complete meltdown, Romeo is also having a complete meltdown. And he is saying what horrible luck he has and how, he can't be happy because Juliet is not going to be with him. He is going to be banished. And so that is why banishment is worse than the death penalty. And so obviously he's being a little bit ungrateful, and that is what Friar Lawrence is ultimately yelling at him for, right? Like, you have been given so much good luck here, and you're unable to see that because you're blinded by your impulsive emotions right now. So he's trying to get him to calm down a little bit. And he continues this by saying, "Hey, listen," the nurse comes in, right? And we learn that, Juliet gives Romeo the ring, which also is something that kind of placates him a little bit. And then Friar Lawrence says, "Hey, listen, Romeo, why don't you go to Juliet's chamber, comfort her, okay, obviously also consummate your marriage, and then before the break of day, leave and go sojourn in Mantua, okay? So that is where you're going to stay for a little while over in Mantua until I send word from your man Balthazar, right? And we'll communicate in that way. Remember, there's no text messaging or emailing at the time, right? So we're going to have to send a messenger back and forth. And when the time is right, I'll tell Balthazar that you can come home because we can tell everybody about your marriage. And then all of this will go away. You just have to have patience. Okay. And so, really, that is how scene 4 ends. Okay, now we're getting into scene 5. So Romeo will have gone to Juliet's at this point, and they're not going to show this scene, right? Maybe nowadays they would have some promiscuous sex scene on television, but in scene 5, they're not going to do that on stage in Elizabethan times. So we're going to see the two of them waking up together. Okay, and oftentimes they are shown maybe on a bed on stage. And there will be a window, and you'll see what I mean by that. Okay, so we're going to get into scene 5 here. Romeo and Juliet are aloft in her chamber. Juliet says to him, "Wilt thou be gone? It is not yet near day. It was the nightingale and not the lark that pierced the fearful hollow of thine ear." So here she's talking about birds, okay? We have a nightingale and we have a lark. A nightingale is a bird that chirps at night, and a lark chirps in the morning. And she is insisting to her new husband that the nightingale is the bird that he hears, it is not the lark. If it's the nightingale, then he can stay. If it's the lark, then it's time for him to leave because he cannot get caught in Juliet's bedroom. Remember, nobody knows about their marriage except Friar Lawrence and the nurse. Okay, that's another thing that I have to make sure you understand. Okay, she continues, nightly she sings on yond pomegranate tree. We're talking about the bird. Believe me, love, it was the nightingale. Romeo says, it was the lark, the herald of the morn, no nightingale. Look, love, what envious streaks do lace the severing clouds in yond east. Night's candles are all burnt out, and jocund day stands tiptoe on the misty mountain tops. I must be gone and live, or stay and die. He's like, nope, babe, trust me, it's the morning, okay? I got to get out of here, or else I'm going to be dead. And there's a lot of truth to that. Juliet says, yond light is not daylight. I know it, I. It is some meteor that the sun exhaled to be this night a torch-bearer, and light thee on thy way to Mantua. Therefore, stay yet. Thou needest not to be gone. She's begging him, please don't leave me. Romeo says, let me be taken, let me be put to death. I am content. Thou wilt have it so. I'll say yon grey is not the morning's eye, but 'tis the pale reflex of Cynthia's brow. Nor that it is not the lark whose notes do beat the vaulty heaven so high above our heads. I have more care to stay than will to go. Come, death, and welcome. Juliet wills it so. How is it, my soul? Let's talk. It is not day. Okay, so he probably turns to her playfully and says, you know what? All right, I'll die. Let's just enjoy this moment together. Okay, and so he's probably being playful here, which ultimately makes Juliet realize that it is necessary for him to go now. She says, it is, hie, hence, be gone, away. It is the lark that sings so out of tune, straining harsh discords and unpleasing sharps. Some say the lark makes sweet division. This doth not so, for she divideth us. Some say the lark and loathed toad changed eyes. Oh, now I would they have changed voices too, since arm from arm that voice doth us affray, hunting thee hence with hunts up today. Oh, now be gone, more light and light it grows. So now she's probably pushing Romeo out of the window to get him to go because the sun is coming up, and anybody that's ever watched the sun come up, you know it actually comes up quite quick. Romeo says, more light and light, more dark and dark our woes. Now the nurse enters. She's probably entering in haste. Okay? Madam, nurse, your lady mother is coming to your chamber. The day is broke. Be wary. Look about. She quickly exits. So the nurse is just trying to give her a signal that mom is coming and Romeo better get out of there. Juliet says, then window, let day in and let life out. Okay, let life out, let Romeo out. She's using the metaphor of life to compare Romeo, right? Romeo says to her, farewell, farewell, one kiss and I'll descend. So they have this romantic kiss, and then Romeo climbs down from her window, from the ladders. Juliet says, now she is in her balcony looking down at Romeo, who is standing on the ground. Art thou gone so? Love, Lord, I, husband, friend, I must hear from thee every day in the hour, for in a minute there are many days. Oh, by this count I shall be much in years ere I again behold my Romeo. She thinks that the next time she sees him, she's going to be older. Romeo says, farewell. I will omit no opportunity that may convey my greetings, love, to thee. Juliet then says, oh, thinkest thou we shall ever meet again? Right? And this is valid. She's looking at him and there's a lot of uncertainty, right? Do you think we're ever going to see each other again? I feel like I can almost ask you guys that, right? In the midst of this coronavirus, do you think I'm ever going to see you again? Obviously I will, hopefully sooner than later. Anyway, Romeo says, I doubt it not, and all these woes shall serve for sweet discourses in our times to come. Romeo thinks that they're going to see one another again. Juliet O God, I have an ill divining soul. Methinks I see thee, now thou art so low as one dead in the bottom of a tomb. Either my eyesight fails or thou lookest pale. Okay, these are very important lines. So I'm going to highlight this here, and I want you to take a moment to think about what it is that she's saying. This is very reminiscent of earlier in the play in Act 1, right before Romeo and his buddies were going into the Capulet party. Right before he enters, he says he has a bad feeling. My mind misgives something yet hanging in the stars. And then he has this untimely feeling of untimely death, right? Well, Juliet likewise here, okay, is saying, I have an ill divining soul. I have a bad feeling. I think I see thee low and dead in the bottom of a tomb. Okay? Either my eyesight fails or thou also. You look really pale, Romeo. Okay, Romeo says, and trust me, love, in my eyes so do you. Dry sorrow drinks our blood. So, of course, the two of them are so sad that they're pale. Okay, and now he exits. What do you guys think? Do you think Romeo and Juliet are ever going to see each other again? Let's see. Also, some very important lines here. Juliet says, oh, fortune, fortune, all men call thee fickle. Kind of also sounds like a line that we read in scene 1 of this very act. Romeo, right after having slain Tybalt, says, oh, fortune, right? I am fortune's fool, okay? Juliet here is talking about luck or fate, if you will, and she says, all men call thee fickle, like make up your mind. Do you want to help us out? Are we going to have good luck or are we going to have bad luck? If thou art fickle, what dost thou with him that is renowned for faith? Be fickle, fortune, for then I hope thou wilt not keep him long and send him back. She's asking luck. Okay, so you go back and forth all the time. I want you to go be in my favor now because this is bad luck. And so I hope good luck comes quickly. Now, Lady Capulet enters, right? Now, what news is Lady Capulet about to bring? So think about that for a second. What news is Lady Capulet about to impart on Juliet? The fact that Capulet has now arranged her marriage, Juliet's marriage. Little does Lady Capulet and Capulet know that she is already married. Lady Capulet says, hi, daughter, are you up? Who is it that calls? Is it my lady mother? Is she not down so late or up so early? What unaccustomed cause procures her hither? Juliet descends. Lady Capulet, how now, Juliet? Madame, I am not well. Lady Capulet, evermore weeping for your cousin's death? What, wilt thou wash him from his grave with tears? And if thou couldst not make him live. Therefore have done. Some grief shows much of love, but much of grief shows still some want of wit. She's telling Juliet to kind of get over Tybalt's death. Again, little does she know that that is not why Juliet is upset. Juliet says, yet let me weep for such a feeling loss. So shall you feel the loss, but not the friend which you weep for. Feeling so the loss, I cannot choose but ever weep the friend. Well, girl, thou weepest not so much for his death as that, excuse me, as that the villain lives which slaughtered him. What villain, madman? That same villain, Romeo. Okay, dramatic irony. In what way is this dramatic irony? That's right. Lady Capulet has no idea that her daughter is married to that same villain, Romeo. Now, notice how Juliet recites these next lines aside. The audience can hear what she's saying, but Lady Capulet cannot. Villain, and he be many miles asunder. God pardon him, I do with all my heart, and yet no man like he doth grieve my heart. That is because the traitor murderer lives. I, madame, from the reach of these my hands would none but I venge my cousin's death. We will have vengeance for it, fear thou not. Then weep no more. I'll send to one in Mantua, where that same banished runagate doth live, shall give him such an unaccustomed dram that he shall soon keep Tybalt's company, and then I hope thou wilt be satisfied. So what is Lady Capulet planning on doing? Sending someone to Mantua, where he lives, to give him an unaccustomed dram that will soon allow him to lay with Tybalt. She intends to poison him and kill him, okay? She's a very vindictive woman here. Juliet says, indeed, I never shall be satisfied with Romeo till I behold him dead. Now notice how those M dashes are set beside the word. So she's saying, I shall never be satisfied till I behold him. And then, of course, she wants to finish the sentence for her mother. So she adds, dead is my poor heart, right? So she's saying, dead is my poor heart, for a kinsman vexed. Madame, you could find out but a man to bear a poison, I would temper it, that Romeo should, upon receipt thereof, soon sleep in quiet. Oh, how my heart abhors to hear him named, and cannot come to him to wreak the love I bore my cousin upon his body that hath slaughtered him. Find thou the means, and I'll find such a man. But now I'll tell thee joyful tidings, girl. And here she goes. She's about to release the news. And joy comes well in such a needy time. What are they? Beseech your ladyship. Well, well, thou hast a careful father, child. One who, to put thee from thy heaviness, hath sorted out a sudden day of joy that thou expects not, nor I look not for. So Capulet here, okay, has arranged for this marriage to put thee from thy heaviness, okay, so that she's no longer weeping over her cousin's death, okay. Juliet says, Madame, in happy time, what day is that? Marry, my child, early next Thursday morn, the gallant, young, and noble gentleman, the County Paris, at St. Peter's Church, shall happily make thee there a joyful bride. Now by St. Peter's Church, and Peter too, he shall not make me therefore a joyful bride. I wonder at this haste that I must wed ere he should be my husband comes to woo. I pray you, tell my lord and father, madame, I will not marry yet. And when I do, I swear it shall be Romeo, whom you know I hate, rather than Paris. These are news indeed. Wow. So she responds to her mother here. I imagine maybe they're sitting on the bed having a nice conversation, and Juliet stands up and defiantly, okay, stamps her foot and says, absolutely not, I will not marry this man. Okay. How might a parent respond to that? Right? When you tell your parents no, I'm sure that many of you are afraid to ever say no to your parents. How might they respond? They're not going to be too happy, right? And so here, Lady Capulet says, here comes your father. Tell him so yourself and see how he will take it at your hands. So Capulet and the nurse now come into her bedroom. Things are going to get a little bit tense here, okay? When the sun sets, the earth doth drizzle dew, but for the sunset of my brother's son, it rains downright. How now, a conduit girl? What, still in tears? Evermore showering? In one little body thou counterfeits a bark, a sea, a wind. For still thy eyes, which I may call the sea, do ebb and flow with tears. The bark thy body is, sailing in the salt flood. The winds thy sighs, who, raging with thy tears, and they will with them, without a sudden calm, will overset thy tempest-tossed body. How now, wife? Have you delivered to her our decree? So he's kind of using a metaphor here to talk about how Juliet has built herself a vessel to float on all the tears that she is crying over her cousin's death. Again, dramatic irony, little does he know. Then he says, did you tell her, right? Turns to his wife, did you tell her about our plan? Aye, sir, but she will none. She gives you thanks. I would the fool were married to her grave. Okay, how does mom respond? What do you think of this? Use an adjective to describe how this is, okay, how this response is. I would the fool were married to her grave. Maybe a little harsh, okay, maybe a little lacking in understanding and empathy. Again, there's a lot of misunderstanding between children and adults in this play, and you guys might be able to relate to that, right? Maybe mom and dad don't always understand some of the things that you're going through with grades or um, friends or, even your own love life. Okay. Capulet. Soft. Take me with you, wife. How? Will she none? Doth she not give us thanks? Is she not proud? Doth she not count her blessed, unworthy as she is, that we have wrought so worthy a gentleman to be her bride? Okay, I'm trying my best here to express the anger that would be used to deliver these lines. Juliet says, not proud you have, but thankful that you have. Proud can I never be of what I hate, but thankful even for hate that is meant for love. How now? How, sorry, how, chopped logic. What is this? Proud, and I thank you, and I thank you not, and yet not proud. Mistress, minion you, thank me no thankings, nor proud me no prouds, but fettle your fine joints against Thursday next to go with Paris to St. Peter's Church, or I'll drag thee on a hurdle thither. Out on a hurdle thither, right? So I wonder if this has to do with um, like carrying a dead body. A lot of death diction here. Out, you green sickness carrion. Out, you baggage, you tallow face. Okay, again, use an adjective to describe Pops here. Maybe a little bit harsh, okay? He's calling her names. Lady Capulet says, fie, what, are you mad? Now, she's talking to her husband here. So that's indirect characterization, okay? He's really flipping out. I am not an actor, okay? I'm not able to convey how much anger it is that he is using to scold her right now for being so disobedient and defiant. Juliet is now kneeling, okay? Maybe grabbing his clothing, right? Good father, I beseech you on my knees, hear me with patience, but to speak a word, right? So she's now begging her father to listen to her, to hear her, to have patience with her. Hang thee, young baggage, disobedient wretch. I tell thee what, get thee to church on Thursday, or never after look me in the face. Speak not, reply not, do not answer me. My fingers itch. Wife, we scarce thought us blessed that God had lent us but this only child. But now I see this one is one too much, and that we have a curse in having her. Out on her, Hilding. Okay, wow. Continues to be a little bit harsh here, telling his wife that having her is like having a curse. All right. Probably not a nice thing for a young teenage girl. Remember, she's not yet 13, not yet 14. She's 13 going on 14. The nurse says, God in heaven bless her. You are to blame, my lord, to rate her so. So the nurse is even intervening, and that's how tense things are getting right now. Capulet, and why, my lady wisdom, hold your tongue. Good prudence, smatter with your gossip and go. Okay, so he is annoyed by her and tells her to leave. I speak no treason. Oh God, ye Godin, may not one speak? Peace, you mumbling fool. Utter your gravity over a gossip's bowl, and here we need it not. You are too hot, Lady Capulet tells her husband. Okay, which again, this is indirect characterization, which informs how the actor Capulet should be delivering these lines. Capulet says, God's bread, it makes me mad. Day, night, hour, tide, time, work, play, alone in company. Still, my care hath been to have her matched, and having her now provided a gentleman of noble parentage, of fair demences, youthful and nobly langed, stuffed, as they say, with honorable parts, proportioned as one's thought would wish a man, and then to have a wretched pulling fool a whining mammet in her fortune's tender, to answer, I'll not wed, I cannot love, I am too young, I pray you pardon me, but and you will not wed, I'll pardon you. Graze where you will, you shall not house with me. Look to it, think on it, I do not use to jest. Thursday is near. Lay hand on heart, advise, and you be mine. I'll give you to my friend. And you be not hang, beg, starve, die in the streets. For by my soul, I'll never acknowledge thee, nor what is mine shall never do thee good. Trust to it. Bethink you, I'll not be forsworn. And then he slams the door and he exits. He basically says, if you're not going to show up on Thursday, then don't ever, you're not living under my roof anymore, right? I'm sure your parents have at some point in their lives said, so long as you're under my roof, you abide by my rules, right? It's kind of what Pops is saying here, okay? Juliet is now weeping and crying, and she is saying, is there no pity sitting in the clouds that sees into the bottom of my grief? Oh, sweet mother, cast me not away. Delay this marriage for a month, a week, or, if you do not, make the bridal bed in that dim monument where Tybalt lies. So she says to her mother, if you don't delay this marriage, okay, you can make my bridal bed in the dim monument where Tybalt lies. Okay, that would be her grave. Okay, which, because there are a family of wealth, it's actually above ground, kind of like in a mausoleum. I'm not sure if you guys are aware of what a mausoleum is, but if you ever go to a graveyard, you'll see sometimes there's houses and there's bodies like in the houses. That's what the Capulets would have had, like a nice big tomb for all of their family members. Lady Capulet then says, talk not to me, for I'll not speak a word. Do as thou wilt, for I have done with thee. Okay. Now, again, this is giving us some insight into what Lady Capulet has had to do. She also had to walk this same path as a youth and get married and be obedient and do what she was told. Okay. There's a lot of gender commentary in this text. Romeo is not being a man, right? What does it mean to be a man? Like, these are all questions that could be asked, right? Juliet is now rising up, and her demeanor has changed. Oh God, oh nurse, how shall this be prevented? My husband is on earth, my faith in heaven. How shall that faith return again to earth unless that husband send it me from heaven by leaving earth? Comfort me, counsel me. Alack, alack, that heaven should practice stratagems upon so soft a subject as myself. What sayest thou? Hast thou not a word of joy? Some comfort, nurse. Okay. Imagine what Juliet is feeling at this current moment. What do you think she's feeling? Okay, she is absolutely at a loss. And she turns to the nurse for support. Make a prediction. Do you think that the nurse is going to support her? Based on everything we've read so far, what do you think? You might have said yes, that she is going to support her and help her out. But let's see what she says. Faith, here it is. She's giving her counsel, her wisdom. Romeo is banished, and all the world to nothing, that he dares never come back to challenge you. Or if he do, it needs must be by stealth in secrecy, right? Then, since the case so stands as now it doth, I think it best you married with the county. Oh, he's a lovely gentleman, Juliet. Romeo is a dishclout in comparison to him. An eagle, madam, hath not so green, so quick, so fair an eye as Paris hath. Beshrew my very heart. Beshrew means curse. Curse my very heart. I think you are happy in this second match, for it excels your first, or if it did not, your first is dead, or 'twere as good as he were, as living here, and you no use of him. Juliet, speakest thou from the heart? right? She's asking, you're telling me the truth? And from my soul too, else beshrew them both. Okay, sincerely, the nurse is saying, yes, I'm speaking from my heart. Juliet says, amen. What? Well, thou hast comforted me marvellous much. Go in and tell my lady I am gone, having displeased my father to Lawrence's cell to make confession and be absolved. What is Juliet saying here? She is telling the nurse to do what? She's telling the nurse, okay, to go tell her mother that she's going to go to Lawrence's cell to apologize, to go to confession and say that she's sorry for having been disobedient. Mary, I will, and this is wisely done. The nurse is kind of taken aback and very proud of her for doing this mature thing, okay? But there's a lot more to this. Juliet says, ancient damnation, O most wicked fiend! Is it more sin to wish me thus forsworn, or to dispraise my Lord with that same tongue which she hath praised him with above compare so many thousand times? Go, counsellor, thou and my bosom henceforth shall be twain. All to friar to know his remedy. If all else fail, myself have the power to die. So what she's telling the nurse is not sincere. If her plan doesn't work and the friar doesn't have any good counsel, she has power to die. How? What is her threat here? What can she do? She can end her life. So do you notice how many times both Romeo and Juliet have threatened such a crazy response to anything that doesn't go their way? Yes. So that is the end. This is a long one. I apologize, but I felt I had to go a little bit more slowly since not all of us understood the last couple of scenes. Okay, if you have any questions, leave them in the comment box and have a great weekend. Goodbye, everybody.